Follow.
They're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
Pigs have flown. Hell is frozen over. The Saints are on their way to the Super Bowl.
53, game on the line. Williams lofting one for a doozy. He caught it!
You're listening to the world's #1 football podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen, Matt Hartman, and Ryan Matthews.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Pigskin Project podcast. I am Matt, joined, as always, by Ben. Super Bowl has come, and it is gone, and the season is over. But that just opens up a new season. Draft season, off season, whatever season you believe in the NFL, because it never stops 24/7. But Ben, how are you?
I'm doing great. Getting ready for the off season again, draft season now for us. It was a good Super Bowl. I mean, as the title in my little header, says, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. It was a fun season, a season full of a lot of fun storylines that happened, which we'll get into later in the show. But I'm doing well. How are you doing, Matt?
I am doing great as well. Always excited to talk ball. So let's get into that, right?
Yeah.
Since we have not seen each other since, talking Super Bowl, just going over it really quickly, I don't think it needs to be ushered with this crazy, super long take or anything like that. Seattle was the better team. Seattle was the better roster, and Seattle felt like the pretty quickly on in this game overwhelmed New England, and
Yeah.
it didn't feel like, I don't want to say New England didn't have a chance because of how many like red zone field goals they were forcing in this game, but they could not move the ball on offense. It was very apparent from the offensive line talent just being able to be bulldozed into Drake May every single play. The run game never really sustained. Like, once again, Drake May was the leading rusher in this game for the New England Patriots. And then the receiving game, like, nobody caught an explosive pass in the first 3 quarters outside of Kayshon Boutte. He had one, like, comeback route that was, like, right at the 20-yard mark. So, again, that was one of the things we broke down going into the game is New England's going to need to be explosive to win this game. They weren't. And overall, Seattle, I think overwhelmed is the best word to put to use to this. And yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, you get it all right. Like I think you hit the from the get-go. I mean, that left side of the offensive line made it too. We had never seen it to that point, right?
Uh-oh. There goes Ben. But what he was saying, I'll try and piggyback off of what he was saying. Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, both rookies in this game, and specifically for Campbell, because I think Campbell is going to be the bigger point of emphasis with this, but just his short arms and his pretty boxy stature, when you go up against Seattle's edge rushers, who are all built to be super long and powerful, you get pressed back into the quarterback pretty often. But Ben, welcome back.
Welcome back. Hopefully I stay back. But yeah, no, it was rough. Drake May, I mean, even when there was an actual presser, like you could cut, like consistently, he was checking over like his left shoulder just to see. He was off rhythm all game. He just struggled. And that's like coming off the back of like not like the super impressive Sam Darnold game, right? But he did all that he needed to do when your defense is as dominant as it is. And, Ken Walker was as great as what he was, Super Bowl MVP, which I'm glad that it went to the correct player, right? It seems like most often it just goes to the winning team's quarterback. But he didn't have to be special. He didn't have to be amazing. He didn't have to be perfect. There were times in the first half where he made some head-scratching decisions. Obviously, it didn't lead into anything. But as you said, they were just the all-around better team, and it showed, and that is how we ended up here. It didn't really seem super competitive at all. And yeah, Patriots just couldn't get anything done on offense. I think it was until like the final minute 50 in the third quarter that they got their first down in the second half, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, like, the New England defense, I feel like they did everything they needed to do outside of, like, forcing turnovers. And that's where maybe I differ a little bit on you with Darnold, where it's like the stat sheet is not good. But when you think about Darnold's season in a nutshell, he led the league in turnovers. He was one of the, mid-level sack rate guys this year. How many times in that first half did it feel like he was dead to rights due to interior pressure, something we talk about so much, and he avoided it? One of them, he created a scramble and created a first down off of it. He was only sacked one time, and I think it was Milton Williams just being like, "I'm sick of this. Like, I'm getting to him this time." But just overall, what he was able to do, just the little things. But there were plenty of misses, to JSN specifically. But that's also due to what Christian Gonzalez was in tight, sticky coverage in this game. Just everything they did well. And then, you got to talk about Kenneth Walker. I think he made, obviously the line of the game is going to be he made a ton of money with this game, right?
Yeah.
Still didn't pass protect or anything, but when Kenneth Walker is good in the run game and creating explosive plays, you really feel him. And he had that stretch where in the first half he had a drive where it was 25-yard gain and then 27-yard gain. 2 plays later it was or 30-yard gain, something like that. And he was really, really good. But yeah, I mean this game wasn't, I think a lot of people are going to take away this is a boring Super Bowl, probably a forgettable Super Bowl. That's fair. I'm probably going to remember the Seattle and LA game more so than this one in the NFC Championship. But I don't know about you, but there's something kind of rewarding to me when the team of the season and the most dominant roster just win it. Just win it in a way that they've won it all year. I feel like it's nice to have a Super Bowl that you leave no doubt in, is a way that I like to put it sometimes. And New England, and we could always do they're going to be back, and we don't know, but they were ahead of schedule where Seattle felt right on the timeline. Ironically enough, in the offseason, that was impossible, but they felt right on the timeline that fit with everybody on their team.
Yeah. Again, we'll see back. I mean, I don't have to, name that stat that at every, that you hear. Quarterback's not making it. Quarterback's not back. Not making it back after losing. I mean, Jalen Hurts was the first one to do it in 25 years. But again, it was a rough game for Patriots fans, I'm sure. But again, you overexceeded expectations so much. I mean, we talked about it in the previous show. If Drake May can play like he did, in the regular season for the next 10 years, I'm not too worried that the Patriots might not be back.
I agree with you. But Seahawks, the Super Bowl champions. Do we have anything else to really add? I mean, we can shout out some specific players if you want. Guys who kind of made an impact in this game. Were there any for you?
Yeah, Derek Hall, right? I mean, he was the first one to make that first big sack of the game. And then from there, that defensive line just took over. Again, we had talked about it. They just didn't really give Drake May any time. And it's easy for me to say Derek Hall, but it was truly just everyone along this defensive line, Byron Murphy, D-Law, all those guys. So anyone that played defensive line for the Seahawks really, I think, might deserve the true MVP of the game.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the kicker. What was it? How many kick? I mean, no kick was beyond 45 yards, but you got to make those kicks, right? But,
Jason Meyer. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Jason Myers just for what he was able to do. But shout out Riley Mills. How about Riley Mills, Notre Dame legend? He got a sack in this one on like an early down. Pressure in the first half. That was pretty fun to see Riley Mills get in there. But I thought it was interesting with the Patriots with how quickly it felt like they went to Henderson. It felt like when they switched the running backs out, it felt like they were scrambling, because I don't think that was ever in their cards really to have to lean on Henderson later in this game, because they were just dying for explosive runs, explosive receiving yards, however you can get it. But on the New England side, I mean, like, Craig Woodson was all over the place, it felt like, for a major part of this game. He finished with 10 total tackles, had multiple pass deflections and TFLs. Like, felt like he was all over the place with Gonzalez. So I mean, Patriots defense game to play. I don't know any other way to say it, but
yeah. Well, I mean, to that note, again, they end up not winning. It doesn't matter. But Robert Spillane, especially in that first half, was giving Sam Darnold hell. Like, he seemed like he was in the perfect spot every single time. And it seemed like there were like 2 or 3 plays that he was like an inch off from making like a turnover that could have swung this game really early on. Again, ends up not mattering, but Robert Spillane specifically in the first half was everywhere. So
yep.
But the pipeline for Mizzou quarterbacks winning the Super Bowl as backups continue. This is now the third Mizzou quarterback as a backup to win the Super Bowl. The legend Chase Daniels, Blaine Gabbert, of course, and now Drew Lock. Look at him. They're meant for it, right? These guys are meant to be a good backup QB on a Super Bowl winning team. That's that's what Zoo really wants to be known for.
That's funny.
Backup QBU.
Yeah, Matt Collins coming in as like, what was it, Hannibal Lecter or something like that. That was interesting. They dunked on somebody. It was like, oh, valid. I don't know about you, but that's kind of how I felt. I was like, all right, you know what? It's valid.
It was valid.
I mean, I get your bit, buddy, but yeah. But that was again, it's a good bow on the season. I think when the best team wins, even if the game isn't perfect. And then the Barnyard, Indiana, Michigan alum.
Yeah. We love it. We love to see it. I don't think I've ever heard him called that before. It threw me off until you said Michigan IU alum. But we're so he slowly is okay. Again, the next segment, shorter show, obviously, is going to be about like storylines and everything. But he is slowly becoming like one of the better tight ends in the entire league, just in terms of what he can do as far as blocking. He's a very, very good blocker and one of the better end zone threats for like a tight end. And like, he was a guy that like kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, obviously they didn't even know what they had because they drafted Arroyo this past year. And then we're like, oh wait, like AJ Barner is actually like a very good tight end. And maybe we should like make him kind of a focal point of our offense. So good for him, man. good for him.
All right, we move on to kind of the story part of our, coverage here today. I don't know how many did you do? I had 3.
I had 3. I could have had more. I don't know the way that you approach this, but like I kind of picked, like, I went into this like, what are some points that you couldn't tell the NFL season without? And that's kind of how I came to my three points. And I'm sure I left some off, and you're gonna, pick up the crumbs and then a 5-course dinner after. So
Yeah, I had 3. Most of them, I don't want to say they're like. You can talk about the 2025 season with them, but I think they are kind of like holistic, big picture trends, and seeing if it goes in this direction more so than like Sam Darnold changed, proved all the doubters wrong, and that's the storyline. Like it was more so like some big picture stuff, but yeah. Do you want me to start?
Different approaches. Well, it's funny because I'll start, and typically I would say you can start, but you kind of mentioned that first big one there. You cannot tell the 2025-2026 NFL season without the Sam Darnold of it all, and it's not even specifically Sam Darnold. And look at the Seahawks and what they did and everything because of it. But it's everything that like follows, right? Because in the same vein that we had talked about Sam Darnold, like, is he going to be good? Is he not going to be good? We can now look at like a team going into the season that people were really high on in the Vikings. And we're like, okay, the Vikings might be able to compete because look at what they did with Sam Darnold. And they might even be upgrading now. And then that leads you into probably what was the biggest meme of the entire NFL season in J.J. McCarthy and Mr. 9 there, which ends up like getting a GM fired because of how bad it was. And so for the Vikings of it all, it was like an awful collapse. We don't even know what they're going to do for their quarterback. That was a team that was supposed to be in contention and now isn't. And then you have the Seahawks who are now winning the Super Bowl with this kind of misfit / write-off guy. And again, I know it's kind of the low-hanging fruit, but I think like without a shadow of a doubt, we're going to look back on this 25 years from now and be like, yeah, that was a Sam Darnold year.
Yeah, I have something kind of piggybacked on it, but so I'll get into that one. But yeah, I mean, Darnold specifically being how many, if any, have like been on 5 different teams in 8 years, like, and very quickly, this guy like he's talked about it before. I don't know if there's like interviews specifically I can find or anything like that, but it's like for that guy to go from the Jets, fail with the Jets, you're supposed to be, again, when you're drafted in the top 3 in any draft as a quarterback, you are a savior. You are kind of labeled as this godlike figure. This, and you flame out. The most memorable part of the Jets' tenure is the mononucleosis, like picture, the seeing ghosts, like just these jokes. Gets traded to the Panthers because the new coaching staff, Saleh, is like, hey, we actually want to draft Zach Wilson instead, and they're completely valid in that decision. We want to move on. We don't want to pay you. He goes to the Panthers, gets into a dogfight with Baker. There was someone else. There was a third of this 2022 Panthers, but you get my point. He's like,
was it Matt Corral?
No, Corral hurt his shoulder. Remember? But besides the point, he's there for 2 years. 21 does not go well, so they bring in Baker because Baker is sold off. And he kind of sits the bench in 22. And most guys would, like, try and go and compete. He went to the Niners, who had just had Purdy. Like, just found Purdy. So it's like, that guy has no shot of being the starter. So he's, like, going back, and he's like, I got to learn how to play quarterback, is a quote I've heard from him. And Then he goes to Minnesota, who trades for picks so they can pick another quarterback. So again, that's another team basically saying like, yeah, we kind of like you, but we're not gonna do anything to commit to you. Which why would you? And then wins 14 games after JJ like tears his meniscus or something, or has to get a surgery. Has the catastrophic final 2 years or two games.
Yeah.
They let him go for a contract that still, to this day, if any team in the NFL wanted to match that at quarterback, they could have.
Yeah.
Seattle does this retooling. They trade away their quarterback. They trade away the receiver. They fire their offensive coordinator, and they've retooled around Sam Darnold. And like you said, they win 17 games, including the postseason. They beat the Rams multiple times. He plays phenomenal in the NFC Championship game. He does just enough in the Super Bowl to like be a noticeable factor, and they win it because of it. This mid-tier quarterback contract, he had a cap hit of $13 million this year, similar to a rookie quarterback contract, like that scale. So for him to, kind of in quotations be this cheat code, where he plays like the 14th best quarterback in football and is making, crumbs compared to even good quarterbacks who won a lot of games this year, like Lawrence and Purdy and those guys. But I think you're absolutely right with Darnold. I don't think we could tell the story of the season without his redemption arc. I think, and it's just cool for that guy. I mean, it's just specifically cool. And like the other thing with the Super Bowl parade going on, like Ernest Jones has been very loud and vocal. Like I love that from him. But
yeah.
Specifically in this season, there were Seahawks fans who were reposting it today that I thought was very impactful. Was like the moment in the season they realized there was something here was when he went to the podium after the 4-interception game against the Rams, where it's like same old Darnold, lost by 2 points on a 60-yard field goal, and he had 4 interceptions, same old Darnold. And he was pretty, expletive heavy there, where it's like, that's my effing quarterback. We believe in him. He's going to get another shot at this, and we're going to win because of him. And they did. And so, I think the Darnold thing is pretty cool. But I'll move on to my other one, and we'll skip over Darnold when we get to it. But quarterbacks, in particular, how many quarterbacks did we have their, like our opinions, perceptions, however you want to shape it, going into this season, really flipped on their head this season specifically? Because I feel like going into the season, it was, again, it's the core four. I always talk about the core four, the Mount Rushmore, however you want to call them. Whatever, the Fantastic Four, whatever goofy nickname you want to use. But Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and Burrow. Those are one of the guys that's going to win MVP. They had the highest odds to win MVP. None of them do it. 3 out of the 4 of those missed the playoffs. 2 out of the 4 of them had a losing record when they started games this year. Allen's the only one to buck both of those trends. He makes the playoff. He gets outplayed by Bo Nix in that playoff game. And so, like, you just think about how we kind of shape the NFL, and it's like, well, you can't win unless you have one of these guys. You can't win unless you have one of those guys. And those guys were pretty replaceable this year. And then you go down the line about, like, because a lot of teams won a lot of games this year. You go down that list. The Patriots with May. May did something only Mahomes and Marino have done, being an MVP candidate in their sophomore year. We mentioned Darnold. Darnold's this, wins 14 games last year, but it's still replaceable enough that they move on to a literal unknown in J.J. McCarthy. Bo Nix, don't take this the wrong way, Broncos fans, but the literal definition of the mid-quarterback. The 15th best quarterback in football is Bo Nix, and they won 14 games. And at times, the Packers game specifically, he was an overall difference maker that I was very impressed by. Trevor Lawrence was a hot topic on this podcast. They won 13 games this year, and he was an MVP candidate. How realistic is that? But he finished in the top 5 voting, and he was a difference maker. Stafford, Stafford's a little different because we knew Stafford was good. We knew Stafford was like the 6th, 7th, 8th best quarterback going into this year. But it's also like in August, did we know he was going to play, let alone 17 plus the playoffs, did we know he was going to play 10 games with this injury, this cryo chamber ridden off season where he's going to training camp and nobody knows it? It's this futuristic table, whatever. Nobody knew he was going to play 10 games, let alone be an MVP candidate and play literally the best season of his career. The Niners won a ton of games, and you think about, like, Mac Jones played 8 games this year. They still won 12 games. What was your perception on Mac Jones? Brock Purdy has, the toe injury halfway through the year. It was pretty rough at times. The Jaguars game specifically for me. And they still win 12 games. And then 3 more, like C.J. Stroud. Where C.J. Stroud is in comparison to someone like Bryce Young. You think about 2 years ago, C.J. Stroud versus Bryce Young, you lost the war, Panthers fans. And now 2 years later, you can really sit at the table again and say, maybe we have the better quarterback. I don't know. But you get my point. The Bears with Caleb Williams last year, that was a nightmare. They get the right coach in there. They get enough pieces in there. They get a rookie tight end, rookie receiver, get more juice. He looks like an awesome, awesome player. And his talent is realized in year 2. And then lastly, Daniel Jones. At one point, the Colts were the most explosive and best offense in football with Daniel Jones as the quarterback. Again, that's kind of spearheaded by what Jonathan Taylor is able to do as, a one of the core running backs. But still, like, for him to start the season the way they did before the torn Achilles, just so many quarterbacks shaped my perception of them going into whether it was, whether I mentioned Daniel Jones or Mac Jones, where it's like, yeah, I don't have any belief in you, and they both win a ton of games, or Bo Nix and Drake May, like, where it's like, I like you, but you're young. This is supposed to be like a linear rise. You're supposed to, like, all right, Bo Nix, you lost in the first round. Okay, now we're going to, get close to winning the division, but we'll lose to the Chiefs eventually. They win the division with 14 games, same as the Patriots. Like, it's supposed to be this rise and fall and everything like that. Lawrence was a nightmare last year, like, and they win 13 games, and he's, again, a difference maker in most of these games. It's just so many quarterbacks on the winning teams this year, like, were noticeably good, but going into the year, were noticeably question marks. And so I'm interested to see if that continues to where these guys are really good still, or kind of fall back down to where we believe they are.
This is kind of tangential, I guess, and I have a question for you. What are your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy then? In terms of a year in which we have such on 2 hands, right? Such, like, strong opinions in terms of, like, where we think you are. You named it, Bo Nix and Drake May. But then coming into a year where we're like, okay, Sam Darnold, you've been on 5 different teams. What do you have now? And there's this beautiful comeback story that came from all of it and all of that. Does J.J. McCarthy fall somewhere in between that spectrum? Does he fall on the outside of that spectrum? Is it like, okay, no, you're gross. Like, get out of here. We've given up on you. We're going to bring Kirk Cousins in and we'll see who wins the job. What did you formulate a strong enough opinion on him?
It's absolutely not the first one. At times, I was pretty adamant about, like, oh, you got to get rid of him. You got to cut ties, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely not that idea. Because I think giving up, taking a step back, giving up on any quarterback after 10 games who you drafted in the top 10, it feels ridiculous. And unless the guy is, I mean, I know I've said it on this podcast where it's like, oh, the kid just can't play. But I think you need to bring in I would bring in specifically Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Don't do like a Jameis thing. Don't do a Russell Wilson thing. Find and go and get Kirk Cousins and give J.J. McCarthy every opportunity to win the starting quarterback job. Give him more reps in OTAs and the training camp and preseason. Give him every rep possible to make him prove to you that he's better than Kirk Cousins. And if he ain't, all right, Kirk, go out there and we'll figure it out, on the fly. And maybe that's not what you want to hear as a Vikings fan. I get that.
No.
But there's not any other option. There's not, unless you're going to spend on a different unknown in Malik Willis, something like that. But McCarthy specifically, I'm not. At times I was pretty, adamant against him. Taking a step back and the holistically the season, I just don't think you can just punt on it and be like, you know what, we're done. We're just done with it, even with the GM firing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think you have to at least give him another shot. Obviously, I'm a little biased in that conversation there. But yeah, I agree. And again, there were so many quarterbacks that their opinions have either changed or more firmly supplanted how we thought about them. I agree with that. So you actually stole one of my points. That's kind of what it was going to be talking about. A season in which you have like these powerhouse quarterbacks, none of them end up making like a big move. But that's all right. We'll replace it. Another, I think, very important point is the defense of it all, right? We're coming off of a year prior where the Eagles win this Super Bowl because they have all this star-studded talent, right? You have A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have Saquon Barkley, you have Jalen Hurts. You mentioned it there too with all of these big four quarterbacks and all of that. But when you look back over the course of the season, majority of it is written by these teams that do have very, very good defenses. The upset that took place with Bo Nix, and yes, Bo Nix obviously plays a big factor into that, but the Denver Broncos defense was pretty gosh darn good, so much to the point that they almost beat the Patriots in their own right, because they were good with a backup quarterback. You look at the Seahawks. We just talked about it. We just recapped it. They were all around the best roster in football. You go through and you look at the Houston Texans of it all. CJ Stroud looked shaky many times through the course of this year. We went into the season having questions about this offensive line, and we still do. But the Texans go on this crazy run down the stretch because they made this team looking around their defense. The Bears, yes, I understand. Caleb Williams took a step. You brought in the mastermind of Ben Johnson, but they were able to force turnovers. The 49ers, despite all of the injuries that had happened, this defense was still able to plug pieces in and get it done. And again, I just think coming off of a year and kind of the shift within football where you look at this and teams are saying, how can we score the most points possible? For the first time in a very long time, it felt like the defense played a very, very big factor into this year. And, we saw it even just, a couple days ago. So I'm wondering to see if teams are going to now focus a little bit more on that side of it. We'll see in years to come how coaching hiring goes. The Mike Mack of it all. We knew he wasn't an offensive mastermind. We knew he was a defensive guy. He still won it. So I'm just interested. The defense was a huge, huge factor in a league that wants to score as many points as they possibly can in any given game.
Yeah, that was one of my points was defense and how the trend of it, how it trends forward. And going through before I get into holistically how I feel about it, just reading off stats, Mike Macdonald being the first defensive play caller to win the Super Bowl in I don't know how many years it was. Like just that alone, it feels, again, it felt like an outlier while it's happening because I think so many of us, me included, are just like, we need an offensive play caller. We need the architect of our offense needs to be our head coach. And the Seahawks go out on a whim, and Mike Macdonald just might be that good and might be that unique that this is not a trend. And I firmly believe that. Like, just what he is, I think he's ahead of the curve right now. And obviously, I can say that after 14-3 and wins the Super Bowl. Oh, it's easy to say he's ahead of the curve. but just how they spent in the offseason and how Denver spent in the offseason, where it was like those teams were good on defense. Let's get better. You know, the signing DeMarcus Lawrence for Seattle, and you're kind of sitting there going, you already have a lot of guys. You know, paying Ernest Jones what he is firmly worth as an off-ball linebacker is interesting. Then the Broncos side of it, like shoring at the spine, and Dre Greenlaw didn't play a lot, but they signed him for a pretty penny. Talanoa Hufanga, the same thing, where it's like, we're a good defense. We could be even better. And those teams were sitting in conference championship weekend, and you know, that means something. This was stolen from the Athletic Football Show, but every offense in the Final Four, so the conference championship weekend of the last 10 years, finishes a top 10 offense in terms of EPA per play. Only one bucked that trend. The 2015 Broncos with Peyton and Osweiler. Like, you know, pretty standard. This year, both the Broncos and Seahawks were outside of that number. They were both the 1 seeds. So, like, that is just taking that stat specifically. Like, it's with how forefront we have gone on the offensive side for those teams with Darnold and Nix at the helm to kind of shoulder that. It's, you know, is it a trend? Is it a blip? Whatever. And then lastly, like, think about the kickoff rules. The kickoff rules have influenced scoring any way you slice it. Like, starting field position is up by like almost 2 yards, which is a major difference over a year. And scoring wasn't relatively changed. It was still, like, I think it was like 23.0 exact, where last year it was 22.9. You know, like, it's nothing with these 2 years of the dynamic kickoff. It's not really changed into a catapulting way for the offense. Of course, yards are going to be down because, you know, teams are getting more possession heavy and getting, like, you know, shorter fields because of those, but still. But we get into, like, the next part of it where it's like, does this influence over the offseason? And what I mean by that is, like, okay, let's look at coaching hires. There's 2 out of the 10 coaching hires who are defensive-minded and likely going to call their defenses. So 20%. So in the coaching circuit, teams aren't really buying what we're selling in the defense. Defense is back. Robert Saleh and Jesse Minter are the only two to, you know, and Robert Saleh is a retread. Jesse Minter, of course, coming back to the Ravens and kind of the closest thing we have to Mike McDonald, by the way. So again, that is something of note. But in terms of the, you know, the coaching hires, not really a change. And then we get into, like, the next part of it, free agency. How's defensive spending going to look? Because there was a team, the New England Patriots, who microwaved the defense this year. Robert Spillane, Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, you name it. Craig Woodson was a very impactful player for them in the draft. And that's my next point, where it's like, maybe this one might be a little different because this draft is different. I think a lot of the top players are defensive players, but how does that influence defensive drafting at the top? How does Nick Immanwori affect where Caleb Downs is drafted, or Sonny Styles is drafted, or Arvell Reese is drafted? We talk about this premium position. Oh, he's not a premium position. Well, at what point are we going to stop doing the premium position thing and realizing, like, nickel corner might be the second most premium position on the defensive end of the ball, like, with what you're able to do. Like, outside of an ace, edge, or interior pass rusher, I think nickel corner might be the, you know, slot corner, however you want to label it, might be the second most important position on that side of the ball to me. And so how does that impact drafting? I don't know. Again, that's what some of these are, the storylines where it's like, how does it affect future years? But definitely an interesting, you know, construct, because defensive catches, you know, it's a seesaw effect. When offense gets a little too far ahead, defense catches up. Everybody on the defensive side of the ball is really smart. Like, you know, when the Legion of Boom was winning, and even like the Texans this year, Dan Quinn I run my stuff and my players make plays. Or this year, you're watching some teams down the board where it's like, oh, you're doing some funky stuff, huh? Like you're doing some funky sim pressures there, huh? And just the influence of like the double mug where it's like, yeah, I could line up 7-8 guys on the line of scrimmage, and you have no idea which 4 are going to pressure. And again, that kind of stresses O-line rules, but like you said, at this point I'm rambling on. But just overall, how does defense from here? How does offense take it back? Does defense keep going in this direction? That they, again, continue to hold the pen last? Or is this just a blip and the best quarterbacks and the best offenses are going to be back there next year? Who knows? But it's fun construct in the 2025 season.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, you stole what my third point was. I have a couple fun other hey, you remember that? But if you have like a larger point, I will let you get into it. If not, we can kind of reminisce a little bit on just kind of some of the fun moments or less impactful storylines.
So this is what I teased you and Ryan before, the tight end and its importance. I just talked about nickel being very important, and I could have done a whole segment on nickel too. But tight end, it's different. It's even more stark. Of course, the poster child for the tight end position this year was the Rams. The Rams, Puka Nacua gets hurt. They lean into this 13 personnel thing. Over 30% of their snaps this year, according to Sumer Sports, were in 13 personnel. 2 years ago, they were leading. They had like an 80% in 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers, and 90% in 22 and 23. So again, this is just a stark all the way to the opposite direction, and they were the best offense, or one of the 3 best offenses by any metric you looked at. Then you get into the other tight end formations. All right, 12 personnel. What are the stats on that? This year, 7 teams had a rate of over 30% snap rate in 12 personnel. In 2022, that number was 0. The highest was the Packers at 29%. Okay, 11 personnel. Last season, 11 teams had an 11 personnel percentage of over 70%. Okay, this season, does that get cut in half? Does it, drop off a little bit? 0 teams had a 70% 11 personnel percentage this year. And just where the tight end position continues to go, it's 2 things. I want to manipulate numbers in the run game. How do I do that? Put more tight ends on the field. I get bigger bodies on the field, 6 offensive linemen, all that stuff. Number 2, tight ends are really good. The tight ends have become really good players. They have no longer become blockers who can catch like they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. They were blockers who could catch. Now they're receivers who can you block? Can you figure it out enough? And some tight ends that are in the opposite spectrum, but they shift their numbers in their specific, talent, their skill set. Jackson Hawes and Darnell Washington. This like 6th offensive lineman kind of feel where it's like we are manipulating numbers in the run game because it's another tight end, but they can also run into the flat and they're hard to tackle and they can move a little bit. So we don't have to waste our 6th offensive lineman who's not going to catch, things like that. And then the other two guys like spearheaded some of the best passing offenses in football. Tucker Kraft, who did get hurt midway through the year. Tucker Kraft was the Packers' best receiver all year. Yes. And maybe Watson, maybe you want to make a, case for Watson, and I'll hear you out because he's, so much more dynamic, like 40, 50 yards down the field compared to Kraft. But watch the Packers early in the year. When they needed we got to have it, Tucker Kraft was the guy. And I'm still convinced that's the reason they lost the Panthers game. Because I think they were so shell-shocked losing Tucker Kraft in that game. They didn't know how to pivot.
Yeah.
And the other one is a rookie, Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland was the best pass catcher on the Bears over the latter half of the year. And in that playoff game, both of them even, he was the focal point of this passing game. That you're able to have Roma Dunze, who you drafted in the top 10 last year, miss 6 games. DJ Moore basically be a negative that they're going to get rid of this year, and nobody's going to bat an eye, and maybe that's also because of Luther Burden, but you get my point. Also because Colson Loveland was the best pass catcher on that team. So just the tight end position specifically, having my attention, and how that figures out, and how that dictates the nickel position, as I mentioned. We can keep going on, and how that the Seattle Seahawks want to stay in nickel, and they can do that because of Nick Minwori. It's just, I don't know if the Rams are going to keep doing this, the 13 personnel thing, but I want to see what teams are like. Hey, they did it. Let's go to 20%. Because also with that Rams number, the next closest number was the Steelers, Rodgers, Darnell Washington. It makes sense at 14%. So again, it was double number 2. Yeah. So it wasn't like this it was this crazy jump, and they only did it because Puka Nacua got hurt before the bye. That's the only reason they kind of tapped into it, and McVay being just ahead of the curve. So yeah, that's my last major point. But we could run through some
fun points.
Yeah, fun points, minor points.
Fun points. Yeah, minor points, fun points. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and it's funny too because I think you left off probably the best tight end in Trey McBride too within that conversation. Obviously, not the same effect. Yeah,
and he was on an offense that halfway through the year they gave up. So again, yes, I am with you. Trey McBride is awesome. Great point shouting him out because then it makes me look better. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
in terms of there's a really good tight end in this class too, by the way. So anyways, it's just some fun points here. I guess the first place I'll start off is Phillip Rivers taking the Phillip Rivers of it all. Right, the fact that he kind of almost gave them hope, and we can look back on it now and be like, "Hey, he took the Super Bowl champions down to the wire, to the point in which they had to kick a walk-off field goal to win that game," and it was fun when that happened. I had no expectation for it, and again, it was you had said it upon them signing him. It was truly can the supercomputer outduel these elite athletes? And it kind of worked there for a little bit. Obviously down the stretch, it fell off and you couldn't kind of capture the magic of Daniel Jones. But that was probably one of my favorite subplots of the entire season.
Yeah. Wish I saw Riley Leonard more. I'm still on it. I'm still on it. We don't go away here. But yeah, it was, again, when it was happening, it was interesting to see, to tell people in my life who don't watch the NFL, kind of hey, there's a 44-year-old guy who he just came back. He's been out of the game for 5 years. Yeah. And it was cool. It was what? That's impossible. How? All right, let's watch him play. Oh my goodness. That guy looks huge. That was
he was massive.
The fun thing. But no, that's a very valid story point that I think needed to be mentioned. I'll stay with the quarterback trend a little bit here. It's clouded in injury, but Jaden Daniels, historic rookie season, goes to the conference title game. All up. He should have gone number 1. Would the Bears take him at number 1 now? Both Drake May, Caleb Williams, and maybe even Bo Nix. Did they pass him this year? Just a question. I'm not saying yes or no, but I'm just saying. All of them made the playoffs. All of them won their division, won a ton of games, and very quickly he felt figured out. Is that too harsh? I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there. I think Daniels was kind of the beacon of the new era, specifically for kids. Jaden Daniels is just a fun, high-energy player who, runs around. I think he's a fun player to watch, and he was an awesome player to watch last year. Just clouded in injury, and when he did play, wasn't dynamic enough that I felt like we felt his impact like we did last year. So, again, I'm kind of going a little, harsher, a little gloomer, but that was something I'm going to remember because I was really excited to see how he built off a rookie season that he had.
I do not want to put this juju out here, but I think I kind of have to make that connection here. Isn't the correlation between him and RG3 very it is eerily similar with one another in terms of again, kind of this transcendent first year and, doing the whole playoff stuff. And now you come in and you're injured and you don't look as dynamic. If only the Commanders took, a 4th, 5th round quarterback in that same draft class, then it really would have been a lot of fun. But no, that draft class in whole is fun because, again, there's still that J.J. McCarthy of it all. We'll see if Michael Penix can even get it figured out because it was just, I don't know. It'll be a fun draft class to look back on, right? So
6 quarterbacks in the top 12 is insane. By anyhow you slice it with the new era of college football.
Yeah. So we'd be remiss to not talk about the final 4 games of the season for the Browns and specifically people for 3 weeks straight is this the week that Myles Garrett does it? And I felt like we talked about that every single episode. But finally, again, Myles Garrett does it. He breaks the sack record. He's in the record books, firmly supplants himself already as a future Hall of Famer at this point, and he still has a lot of fuel in the tank. But to be able to watch a record get broken was a lot of fun, especially considering that Browns fans didn't have a whole lot else to look forward to.
Do you want me to be mean again? Because I could be mean again. Isn't it funny that a year ago, Myles Garrett was doing the trade request, and it was like, oh, God, he's going to go to the Eagles. Oh, God, the Eagles are going to trade a pick for him. He then resigns, and he's like, oh, I love it here. They gave me so much money. I love it here. They have 23 sacks. He has 23 sacks. They're the best defense, and it doesn't matter at all that he's likely on the trade block this year. That's what's insane about it. Strahan was on a team that went to the Super Bowl, I believe. Right? The 2000 team, that was the year he broke the sack record. So again, it's crazy that it's he's on a 5-win team breaking this immortal record.
Pro Bowl quarterback.
This is true, too. But he breaks this immortal record in the coolest fashion ever, by the way, and it just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And I was one of the supporters.
Yeah.
I was one of the Browns. Pay him. Yes, keep him around. You need good players. You need people to sell tickets, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, didn't matter. Do you have another fun storyline? I have one more. So
the Eagles failing in the exact same way as a few years ago. Again, coming off a Super Bowl. All right, what's our plan at coordinator? We could,
I'm glad you did it and I didn't have
we could go get Frank Reich. He's still out there. The Stanford thing hadn't fallen through yet. We could go get Dougie P. We could go get someone who's done it. No, I'm going to upgrade someone in the staff. I'm going to upgrade a guy I know. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. And every other week, it was just this is why I have to mention it, because every other week, it was reporters, it was anybody being like, well, A.J. Brown's mad. They're going to trade him at the deadline. Devontae Smith isn't getting enough targets. Saquon Barkley hasn't been good this year. The offensive line sucks. It was just this, uber doom and gloom. And again, they're still winning games. They're still going to win the division. Like, the division was really bad this year. But for a team that, again, for this to go the exact same way it did 2 years ago after they made the Super Bowl, this time after winning it, it's just interesting. It's just the parallels are funny to me. They make me laugh because, it just, you saw it as an Eagles fan where it's just like, you do it from like week 9. I remember like we talked about this in the chat. You're like, this is 23 all over again. Just fast forward me to this wild card loss and get the season over with. You were right, and yeah, I mean, I know I'm salting the wound here again. I'm being Mr.
No,
Doom
I'm
and
glad you
gloom,
did it.
But it was the story. It was one of the stories of the season.
That was like that final point that I wanted to talk about. So I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you covered it, and I'm glad I don't have to talk about it. We're happy that was kind of my final point of it all. So again, I'm glad, and again, it's kind of crazy too as an Eagles fan that like we're already at like before the Super Bowl. We had talked about this, like even before the Super Bowl, we're like, all right, can we just sim through the 26-27 season, and then we could just like fire Nick Sirianni and get it done and over with. But AJ Brown went on a podcast like. I think it was like Myles Garrett, or I think it was Micah Parsons' podcast or some podcast on Radio Row. And he's like, I love it in Philadelphia. He's like, Philadelphia is where my home is. And I'm like, you know what? So I don't know.
Go read some books, buddy.
Yeah, go read some books. But no, it was a really fun year. I know Ryan isn't here, but it was a fun year for all of us, right? I mean, more so the two of you guys than it was for me. Ryan's team, they finally, after years and years and years of doing it, have their quarterback and head coaching pairing, that they have, something to look forward to. The Saints finally have that same thing, or what they hope to be that same thing. And then there's the Eagles here, but I can't complain. Won the Super Bowl last year. But it was a fun year. Glad that we had all of you guys with us. But podcast is not going anywhere.
Yeah, I have one more. Just one more.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just Mike Tomlin resigned. John Harbaugh was fired. And it was such a mitigated disaster in Las Vegas. Pete Carroll's probably done. So again, 3 guys who kind of, shaped my childhood specifically as coaches on the sideline for those specific colors are no longer coaching those teams. And for Carroll's sake, no longer coaching. So again, I think that's interesting to just look back on because, Steelers, Ravens specifically being organizations, I think we always think of those organizations as ahead of the curve when it comes to talent evaluation and learning and bringing in people, and they bring in literally 2 opposites, but like should be expected, right? The Steelers are okay with being mid,
No.
And the Ravens are going to hire somebody they know in Jesse Minter, who's been in the building. So again, it makes total sense why they did those things, but it's still interesting to see if Jesse Minter, what's the best case scenario for Jesse Minter? He becomes John Harbaugh, right? What's the best case scenario for Mike McCarthy? They win the division, they win 10 games. Like, isn't that funny? And then for, Pete Carroll to have this decade of dominance in, in college football, go to the NFL, have this half decade of dominance with the Seahawks, kind of shift into this Russ-led organization, and then gets fired. Gets the second crack at it. I'm going to stabilize the floor for the Raiders. And it was a disaster. We're going to pay the college offensive coordinator the most money in all of football. Disaster. And so for him to just for Pete Carroll to go out like that, it's a bummer. And just frankly, it's a bummer. Even if I was pretty, I kind of expected it to be a little disastrous with who he hired as the offensive line coach, his son. But
his son. Yeah. Ah, good, good times. That's for sure. I wonder if USC needs like a offensive quality control coach or something. You
I
can kind of.
I bet he goes back to his like professor thing. Remember he did that, right?
Yeah, yeah, he was a professor there, and
He should.
so it was. Yeah, it truly was. Kind of an end of an era there. It could be an end of a quarterback era too. Philip Rivers hopefully staying retired. We don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. He's probably more likely to be back than not.
Listen.
This is like
Philip Rivers was
year number
closer
5.
to get the Bills head coaching job than he was to playing another game at quarterback. I think it sailed.
Yep. So, but no, that was fun storylines. Filled with a lot of emotions, a lot of ups and for all of us and for all of you guys, all 32 teams, and the fans, coaching staff, front offices of everyone. So it was a delight of a season. Glad to do it with you. Glad to do it with Ryan. But it was fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Great season. Again, I mean, felt like just yesterday, Jalen Carter was ejected for spitting on Dak Prescott, and here we are.
Get out!
We gotta wait. We gotta wait till September, man. I can't believe it. But yeah, no, it again, great season. I feel like we had a ton of fun as we always do.
Yeah.
But it's never over. Pigskin Projects never over.
It's never over.
There's always something to yap about.
Yeah,
brother. There's always something.
Yes. For those who were not here with us last year, we'll shift on over to the off season of it all. Me and Matt for sure. Ryan will join us for some episodes as well. We'll do our positional rankings, kind of like we did last year. We'll probably cover some combine stuff. Obviously, there'll be the big off-season show or like start of the off-season or free agency show, a draft show. So still a lot. Still expect a video at least once a week. Mock drafts as always. It's tis the season. Some say our favorite season. But yes, we will keep you guys updated. And make sure you guys, if you're watching live, there'll be a mock draft coming out here soon. And if you guys are watching this back, check the page because the mock draft is probably already posted. But again, thank you. Uppercuts Grooming and Spotify Podcasters in the off season.